But earlier on this afternoon, I caught up with BMX coach Julian Allen from Accelerate Bike School to have a chat. And, you know, if you're going to go in with these things, you might as well go in with a big question right off the handlebars. What is it about BMX that he loves so much?
Wow, that's a big question. What do I love about BMX so much? I like the speed, I like the fear, I like the adrenaline, I like the competition, I like the winning, I don't like the losing, but I manage the losing. I like the family aspect. I like the fact that it can bring all ages and genders together on one day to race the same track. I like the way that within reason there's no barriers to participation. And yeah, it's just really exciting. There isn't, I had this thought the other day, and I have lots of these sort of thoughts, and I've never really done another sport since I've left school, at the very least. At school, I played a bit of rugby, I've done basketball. Both my eldest son raced BMX from when he was 4 years old. My youngest son raced BMX at 3, quit at 7, and then took his own path and found judo, rugby, and has been quite successful at those. And like judo and rugby, I can understand it from the excitement and adrenaline factor. You're on the mat, you're toe to toe, throwing someone about, or going to get thrown, or whatever. In a rugby match, you know, you could get smashed to bits. I don't want to take away from other sports, but just to pick one out of the air, what does someone who plays badminton, or to take it back, swimming? I live on that buzz and that adrenaline, and I don't see it in other sports. And I'm not saying they don't have it. What I'm saying is I don't see it.
I understand what you're saying, and one of the things we've prided ourselves doing on the evening show over the last several months, you know, since the Euros were on, but then the Olympics followed, we've wanted to continue flying the flag for sport in Essex, because first and foremost, we have such a rich bed of opportunity for people to try so many things, which I demonstrated years ago with Sport Relief, but you know, I'd like to think we've been doing so over the last several months too. But yeah, like you, for me, I've always liked the contact element of it. I think there's the physical challenge against another person, where there's, you know, it's am I better than you? So I understand that. Whereas I recently have found myself trying rock climbing out a little bit more, and there's no direct competition with a person. It's the wall, you know, it's the boulders that you try. And maybe it's an age thing. Maybe it's the fact my body's telling me you can't keep punishing yourself so much anymore, Jelly. But I sort of understand that. And going back to what you said about your son, you know, so he tried BMX at 3, and by 7 he'd quit, found something else. He might have found badminton. He might have found synchronized swimming, which, by the way, is phenomenally hard. Having tried it, it is nuts.
No, I totally understand that, but you know, even rock climbing, like you say, because I do a bit of downhill mountain biking too, and that's on my own. Yeah, that's racing the clock. The track is still gnarly. The consequences are still high. The adrenaline rush is still there. Rock climbing, I could get that. I don't do heights for a start, so climbing up something, that would be terrifying and a huge challenge. So I get that. You go to a swimming pool at 5 o'clock in the morning, the water's reasonably cold, it's wet, it's always kind of rectangle shape, and you go up and down. And I'm amazed that people do that, and do that to the level they do. I admire it, and that's the thing, I'm not going to take a moment of it away.
Do you remember back to like grassroots BMX when you started? What was that like? Was there a lot of opportunity for you when you first got a bike?
My route to BMX came from motorcycle racing, really. My dad was a motorcycle racer, raced grass track, like speedway, but grass track on, you know, the kind of poor man's speedway, if you like.
Yeah.
And he did that before I was born, and motorbikes were always around, and what that was all about. I tried motocross a little when I was about 8. Never raced, had bikes, rode motorbikes from when I was about 3 years old. And I found motocross terrifying. absolutely terrifying. I couldn't bring myself to find the speed. I got it. I loved it. I'd watched it on TV. I had heroes. I couldn't replicate it. I couldn't force myself as a young kid to do it, and didn't have a lot of coaching. It was a bit old school. Dad was a bit like, "Oh, go on, get on with it," and I wanted to, and I could feel it. I couldn't do it. And then BMX came around, and there was a couple of lads in the village had BMXs. I'd seen it on TV, and then how did we get into it? So it was my dad's stepkids. Their dad was also a motorbike racer from the same town, who knew my dad, and he then took on being the chairman of Braintree BMX Club, first ever chairman. And this was 1984, and it's like, we'll go and we'll check this thing out. So and I got a bike for Christmas, as everybody did in about 1983.
Yeah.
And I took it to this BMX race, and I can still remember every moment of it. It was terrifying. I'd never been to a BMX track. I'd roared round dumps and stuff that we had in the village, but I'd never actually been to a track, even though it was only 7-8 miles from my house. We'd never been. And yeah, just everything, the colour, the bigger kids, the smaller kids, the couple of sort of local heroes, if you like. And it was everything that I'd seen in a BMX magazine in Braintree, and it blew my mind. And yeah, that was that. That's what I wanted to do forever. That's what I've ever done.
Along the way, though, was there a coach you remember? One guy. There was never any formal coaching, or at least in my world back in those days. And over the years, I actually left Braintree BMX Club for a period because the club wasn't affiliated to any of the big associations, so there wasn't any regional races or then national races and so on and so on. And I wanted to spread my wings and go and race other places, so I ended up joining Sudbury and then subsequently Ipswich, and then after that, there was 2 associations back at that time, and certain clubs were affiliated to certain associations. So I then joined another club, which was Brandon, out near Thetford Way, and they were affiliated to the other organisation that I had raced. And so I joined Brandon, qualified for the British Championship, and there was a guy, Alex Scott, who was also a racer himself and pretty handy in the probably the 35 to 39 or 40 plus, whatever he was at the time. And I remember on the couple of weeks before with regional racing or whatever we were doing, and Alec was like, "Oh, you're going to British Championships, you're going to win that." And I was like, "I don't know, Alex." I was like, I'd won a few national races, not many, and had some really good results. But when he said it wasn't you might. He said, "I'm going to win. You're going to win that." And I was like, "Oh." Well, I was a bit, I suppose, cocky as a kid at the time, and I believed in myself, so I believed I could win it. So I turned up that weekend believing I was going to win it. And Alec was there, and he was, I would say, on my case, but he was in my ear hole most, between races and between practice. It's like, you're good, you're going to win. I was like, I think I am, yeah, I feel fast, yeah. And anyway, long story short is I did. I won that weekend. Number plates there. That's amazing.
That was 1988. And Alec won that weekend as well, because that's the kind of guy he was. It's like, we're going to win. We're just going to go and win it. Win it. Yeah. Let's go win it. We did. And we won it. Regrettably, I didn't win both classes. I won the slightly less prestigious one. And I led the other class that I was racing halfway down the first straight, made a mistake in the first corner and ended up 6th, which I should probably let go. 35 years later.
No, don't let it go. It matters, Julian. It matters. I think I was really hopeful that talking about coaches was going to lead to us being able to find that one person in each person's life, and clearly you make a huge impact. I know you do at Accelerate in Braintree. Referring back to the reason we talked about this tonight, Jo Harton, England netball player, had the names of 2 of her Harlow coaches on her dress on a televised sport, and that's just such a wonderful sort of salute and a nod to those 2 coaches, to Carol and to Jean, and for you it was Alex, and I'd like to think there are probably riders today who single-handedly, believe you are the reason they still do what they do, or they're as good as they are because of the encouragement and the help you've given, support, and whether it's just go faster, or whatever it is.
Few of them get that quite often. We've got a great team at the club. There's not just myself. I lead and coordinate the team, but without Gavin Stokes and Josh Butson and previously Taylor Andrews, there's no way the club would have been able to achieve what it's achieved. I'm not taking all the credit for myself or the team, because the riders put the work in. We just turn up and make them do it. It's a little bit more democratic than that.
Of course it is. How does it feel? The final thing I want to know is, how does it feel when you see someone achieve success, having been with them from day one, when they turn up and they're like, right, I've ridden the bike twice, I know left and right. What does it feel like when you see them go on to success?
I'm a big softie. It's just emotional. I break down every time. I can't hold it in. It's just, it's when you've seen a rider, say from 6 years old, and again, I use Freya as an example, but there could be, I could choose tens of riders really. And I don't just work with Braintree Club. I work with riders all over the country. But, Freya working from 6 years old, crashing out in 7 in the world final while leading it, and going to a couple of years later, going to Rock Hill in America, fastest kid on the planet in her age group on that day, made a mistake, crashed out in the quarterfinals. And a couple of years later, off we go to Zolder in Belgium, knowing that she's the fastest. She's beaten everybody. She's had a couple of European races that year, but you still got to put it together on the day, And that was just special. We visualised the race even as a young kid. She's only 11 when she won that world title, and again, only racing 11-year-olds, but it still counts, And we visualised it. She believed she could win it, and I'm a big firm believer in believing in you. The rider's got to believe in me, but I've got to believe in them, and they've got to then believe that I genuinely believe in them, for them to believe in themselves. And if that can align, and the training's been done and the technical stuff's there, nothing can hold you back. You just got to go and do it and believe it's going to happen, and it will. Taking Freya out of the equation, another lad from Braintree, Adam Gilbert, he's come through as a young lad, won British title and stuff like that, and he just missed out on a British title last year by half a bike length. But regardless of that, it's what he's then gone on to do now since the British Championship. He stepped up from the regular challenge classes and is now moving into the junior men class, so racing off the 8-metre hill, the Olympic style track. Seeing kids that you've known from 7 come through that whole process of every class right through from 7 years old, 16 years old, they then take that plunge, then start training in an elite fashion. So he's also got a S&C coach, he's got an S&C program, as well as his bike stuff and bike time he spends at the club. And then to see him out like this weekend, he'll be up in Manchester racing at the Racing Under the Roof in the junior men championship class. Amongst, last month he was up there, he had Kai White in one of his motos, the Olympic silver medalist. Seeing kids that you've known from 7, then up on that big hill against the best on the planet, that's pretty special.
That is BMX coach Julian Allen at Accelerate Bike School over in Braintree. More coaching talking about.